to this last and the fourth workshop series that we have with FCJ Refugee Centre. Today's topic is communication, and it's the last of this series, but we hope to have more in the future. Before we begin, I would like to introduce myself a little for those who are attending this as their first workshop of the series. My name is Mariam. I am a talent partner with the client engagement team at Jumpstart Refugee Talent. I've been with that organization for about 6 months. I am a certified career development practitioner. I've been practicing as a coach and counselor in the employment services for the last 8 years. I am a graduate of George Brown with NET program, and I've done a couple of other certificate programs, but I think what matters most to all of you is that I am also an immigrant, and I have gone through a lot of the challenges that you probably are going through, finding employment or shifting your career direction and finding some more meaningful work. My previous background was teaching and ESL education, and I moved to Canada in 2014 from Iran. So I'm happy to share my professional and personal experience together to provide more relevant material and support to all of you. And what we are going to do today, we are going to talk about what communication actually is about, how is it related to employment, and what do we mean when we say communication. What are some different communication styles and how we can be more presentable and marketable for a Canadian employer by being more aware of the Canadian workplace communication etiquettes, norms, and styles. And there will be some activities at the end. I will share some scenarios, and I would appreciate you participating in those activities. And then at the end, hopefully we'll have time for a quick Q&A. So when you think of communication, you probably think of all sorts of things: languages, understanding, listening, speaking. But this is, I think, a very neat and clean definition of what communication is, which is done by the government of Canada. They did a study, and they tried to understand the Canadian job market better. And the results of the study showed that all Canadian employers in today's market are looking for candidates and employees with strong, I guess they are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, about 8 or 9 skills, and they've called them skills for success. And as you see, communication is one of them. What is it? The same research body that has done this study has also defined communication as our skill and ability to understand others, to share with others, and to be able to interact with others in a meaningful way. And it is definitely important because every job ad or posting that you have looked at these days or you want to apply for, don't you see communication as one of the skills that they are asking for? So one of the top requirements, it doesn't matter what kind of industry or what job you're applying for, what they're asking, one of the top requirements, which repeats in every job posting, is strong, effective communication skills. And the better communicators you are, it's both for your own benefit and the employer's benefit. The result is more productivity, more efficiency, and less time that they should spend on like resolving conflicts or misunderstandings and confusions between peers, between management and the employees, between frontline workers and backstage workers, and clients and staff. So it definitely matters to have strong communication skills in order to find better jobs and more meaningful employment. But one of the most important factors that impact our communication style and our communication behaviors and tendencies is culture. Can someone define culture? Anybody? And I'm just going to quote the definition of culture by someone called Milton Bennett, who says, learned and shared patterns of beliefs, behaviors, and values of groups who are interacting with one another. So there are a few elements in this definition. Learned and shared, you learn them. So keep in mind, whatever you can learn once, you can unlearn and relearn again and again. And they are between people that interact with one another. These are shared beliefs, values, behaviors that get shaped as people interact more and more with one another. And when you move to another country, what changes? Most importantly, the people that you interact with, right? So as the people that you interact with change, you probably need to work within or live within a different culture. And because culture is one of the most powerful factors on the way we communicate, it's important to learn more about the new culture. And that doesn't mean, I think this is a good picture. I chose this picture because if you're a goldfish and you can swim in that small bowl, and you're moved to this larger bowl, can you not still swim? Do you forget how to swim? Yes or no? No. You still know how to swim. You don't need to start learning how to swim. It's just taking some time for you to get used to the size of this new fishbowl, the temperature, the new elements existing around you, and being able to adapt to that new culture or new communication styles. Doesn't mean that you need to become a different person or a new person or you don't know how to communicate. And that's hopefully what any workshop like this is designed to do, to help you gain more awareness about those differences between the first or previous country's culture and the Canadian life culture, workplace culture, or business culture. And in order to understand culture and communication, I'm going to address and talk about four. They have divided the communication and cultural differences between countries, societies, into four major elements or four major competencies, I would say. And this next picture, if I can go to it, yes, gives you a good idea of what I mean. Cultural differences are a lot, and some of these differences you can easily tell through like surface differences, like what people wear or how people put on makeup, what kind of food they eat. And there are some more deeper level cultural differences that you can only understand if you interact with them, if you work with them, if you have more communication with them. And these four different differences, competencies, or intercultural dynamics. The first one in this one, the one that is direct communication versus indirect communication. I think the picture is easily telling you what it means, but quickly letting you know it's, let's say, for example, a business meeting in Asia or in the Middle East is happening versus a business meeting happening in Canada or European country like Germany. The time that the meeting in the Middle East might take is 3-4 hours, exact same topic, exact same goals, but in Canada it may take only 1 hour. Can anyone say why? Any ideas why business meetings tend to take longer in those cultures versus Canadian or North American culture? Michelle, you've unmuted yourself. Do you want to say something?
Yeah, of course. So usually what happens with Canadian culture, you go directly to the topic. There are no runarounds to get specific to the topic. So with other cultures, and I'm going to include my culture, which is Spanish, from South America, from Ecuador, you never start a meeting with directly, today, this is what we're going to discuss. You always start asking the team how the team is going and maybe how the family is even going. So that's why it takes a little bit longer usually to run a meeting.
Yeah, thank you. That's a perfect example. And thank you for sharing more of your personal experience and Spanish culture. And that if you're not aware of the differences and you are, let's say, a Spanish person or Latino person in this meeting in America, you might feel these people are rude. They don't even ask me how my day is and they're starting the meeting. Or the opposite. Like, business is important. Why are they taking so long? These people don't care about business. So the assumptions and our judgment and understanding of other people's behavior is rooted and based in our own personal cultural experiences. So again, what I'm trying to do is to help you better understand the differences so you won't get offended, misunderstood, or confused when you are having those communications. Another big difference is the difference between individual, me versus we, the importance of one person versus the importance of the group, and how some cultures prioritize the individual benefits versus the group benefits, and some others vice versa. Let's say, for example, again, in my country where I am from, Iran, it's completely okay and normal that an employee works overtime. And if you have to do something, you have to finish it. It doesn't matter how long it takes, 2-3 hours in the evening, you'll have to stay and finish your work. And many people do that. But in Canada, 5 o'clock, work is over, no more business. And even your boss is not allowed to reach out to you after work hours and ask you to do things, because that's the norm. That's actually even a law more than a cultural etiquette. So, and this task versus relationship means in some cultures, they are task-based or task-oriented, meaning it's important to get the job done. It doesn't matter how or how much I hurt other feelings to achieve that purpose. Or let's say when for example, I'm giving feedback to my colleague or my employee, if it is constructive feedback, I either don't give any constructive negative feedback or sugarcoat it so much because I don't want to hurt that person's feelings. And it's possible that that person will never get what I mean. Why I'm doing this? Because I want to save the relationship. My relationship with that person is more important than the targets, the numbers, and the business goals. And then this last one, which is the difference between like top-down systems versus flat systems, or hierarchy versus egalitarian. And in simple words, like you see in this picture, it's very easy to tell who the boss is in some cultures by even their attire, what they wear, where their office is, how big their office is, and how other people in the company or in the team respect their opinion, and how much power of decision making they have. But in more egalitarian and flat systems, everyone has a voice. Everyone has a share in the decision making process. Yes, the boss, the manager, the director is the one who makes big decisions, but everybody's voice matters. So these are four major intercultural differences and competencies. And if you're aware, it helps you better understand what each person's behavior, language, or body language even comes from. And you can better understand, better communicate your message and your goal within any scenario or interaction situation, and slowly and do better at the workplace. Again, it's all about how we communicate with one another to solve the problems, to address the conflicts and resolve conflicts, and how to present yourself in a networking situation, in a job interview, in a workplace situation. Any questions? I feel like I'm talking for a little bit too much. Any questions? Are these clear? Yes? No questions? Shall I move to the next one? Okay. So now we talked about those 4 different major key cultural competencies. So how can I be a more culturally aware person in Canada? What do I need to do? Should I be more direct or more indirect? Should I be more task-oriented, more relationship-oriented? Should I prioritize myself as an individual or the team or the group? So this is a very hard thing to define, actually. No one can clearly tell you that Canada is direct, purely, or indirect. And the reason why, as you see in the picture, it has become a more and more diverse, multicultural, intercultural country. And yes, we used to have 2 major populations, Anglophones and Francophones, French culture, English culture. But as years have gone by, the country has welcomed more and more immigrants and refugees, and the culture is such a diverse mosaic, sometimes they call it, that it's hard to tell Canadian culture is this or that. But to give you an idea, there is a very famous intercultural assessment or cultural assessment which has shown a typical Canadian, and again, this is not a black and white, but a typical Canadian or in a typical Canadian workplace, there is more tendency towards being individualistic. So person or individual is usually more important and prioritized over the group. There is they are highly equality is very important to them. Like it's not easy to tell the boss in Canada. A manager and the boss probably works in the same setting as other people in the office, and but if you go to another country, you may see them having lunch even separately. So Canada tends to be more focused on equality and individualistic preferences, and they don't really take risks a lot. They are very cautious about taking risks. But when it comes to being direct or indirect, being task oriented or relationship oriented, you see there's most of them are somewhere in the middle. So it's hard to say this way or that way. And I don't want you to have that understanding or that stereotype that Canadian culture is this or that, but having more information and more awareness about, oh, if someone is not going down to the business right at the meeting, at the beginning of the meeting, maybe this person comes from a culture where they are more indirect. And I would respect that. I would be more patient with that person. Or if, for example, if I'm trying to get some clear feedback from my manager and they resist giving me the feedback, and I know that this might be partly cultural, I try to be, again, more accurate and clear in my questions so I can get also clearer feedback from my boss. So that's why I am sharing these differences with you. And the best strategy, this is again another famous model strategy to become more culturally intelligent, more culturally aware when you're working with people from different cultures. OLA, which stands for open, learn, and adapt. Open your mind and be open to accepting others as they are, where they are, whatever cultural background they come from or communication style that they have, and learn about them. Be open to accepting people as they are. Learn about what, for example, someone who was born and raised in Montreal in Canada might say in this situation versus someone who was born in Colombia or in, I don't know, Afghanistan and has been here only a few years. What might this person? Again, there is no black and white, but the tendency and the likelihood. And at the end, you don't need to change yourself, but you need to adapt to those differences. And we are human beings. We are very different individuals from one another. Some of us are more willing to adapt. Some of us more willing to accept the change and more quicker actually to adapt to these differences. Some of us may need more time. But if I think we keep this in our mind, open your mind, learn about differences between you and others, and try to adapt to those differences. It can help. When it comes to communication, I don't mean just what you say. It's important, definitely what you say is important, but how you say it and how you present yourself also matters. And I know that these days many of our work communications are happening online, but again, employers and companies are inviting people back to the office. Whether it's virtual or in person, it doesn't really make a big difference. Body language is another important piece of communication. If we go back to the human history, old age, we were not able to talk at the beginning. And as we have evolved, we have developed the languages as one of our communication tools. And still, majority of what we say is transferred through nonverbal and body language, maybe more than 50%. Some people say even 60, 70%. And that huge chunk of our communication that is transferred through body language or nonverbal cues, it's easy to understand for everybody. You don't need to know English, French, Arabic, or Spanish to understand people's body language. And that's why it's even more important how you present yourself through your body language versus what you say, whether it is English, French, or any other language. And body language, this is not maybe a complete list, but some aspects of body language that I could think of and add here are how you sit, how you stand, the way you move your body as you're walking, location and proximity. By that, I mean how far or close you are to the people when you are in the same physical room with them. Posture, again, it's the way you hold your body straight or slumped. And touch is something that can sometimes cause some inconvenient situations. Some of us come from cultures where touching others is okay and even actually a positive thing, but some cultures do not like being touched. It sounds, or it means sometimes even sexual harassment. If, for example, you are not giving, you're not from a culture, most Canadian workplace cultures are like that, like between a male and a female, for example, employee or colleague, if there is an interaction happening, the male colleague should not touch a female colleague as they are having a conversation, unless they have built their relationship and they know their preferences and they're both okay with that. And facial expressions, again, it doesn't matter whether you are online, you're sharing your face on your screen, or in person, and eye contact. It matters. I'm going to go to the next slide to be more maybe specific about what kind of eye contact is probably better and what kind is not. So these are, again, just some tips and quick guideline. It's always depending on the situation, but generally speaking, whatever you're trying to say through your English, French, or whatever language you're speaking should be aligned with your body language. Like if you're carrying a happy celebratory message, you can't look like this and say, "Happy birthday." It doesn't sound like you're actually happy about my birthday. So the way you look, the way you speak, the way you look into people's eyes should also be aligned, should be similar level of energy. The feelings that you are transferring and communicating should be in line with what your language or what your tongue is actually saying. Something that is very important in having conversations with others to show that I am listening, I am actually with you, I'm interested, is nodding. Nodding is a good sign that I'm with you, I'm listening. And shaking if you don't agree with what someone is saying. Speaking about how far you should be from people when you are having a conversation with them or you are meeting with them. It's, again, that's just a number, but try to keep in mind that maybe arm's length is the proper space to keep between yourself and the person you are talking to. Whether you are in a business meeting, whether you are even in a queue or lineup for a grocery store, that's what a Canadian context or Canadian culture expects you to do. Don't get too close to people, because that would make them feel uncomfortable. About posture, we actually talked about posture, but there is an extra point here. Crossing your arms and crossing your legs, what does that mean? Anyone? What's the difference between me speaking like this while I'm presenting and having my arms open? Anyone can talk on that or answer that?
Yeah, I can contribute to that.
Please.
So usually when you have crossed arms in a Canadian culture, means that you're not open to the conversation, that you're not receiving the message really. Mm-hmm. So it's better not to have a crossed arms when you're having a conversation, not especially with your boss or even with your team members, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's
true. That's perfect. Thank you. Perfect answer, Michelle. Anyone else would like to add to that when it comes to crossed legs? Let's say you are in the same space with someone. Yes, Ben.
I was saying that when you cross-legged, for us, it means that you are closed to somebody's communication. You are not open to whatever he or she is going to say to you. So oftentimes when you cross it, it is even another form of unacceptable behavior that maybe you have towards the other party that you're communicating with.
True. Thank you. Both are correct. And an additional signal that it might still also add is that you're not confident enough. Crossed legs and crossed arm might also be interpreted as lack of confidence or low confidence. So thank you for those additional comments and answers. And the facial expressions. I know that they say, fake it until you make it. Smile even if you're not happy. I don't agree with that. No, I don't want you. I don't expect you. I myself don't smile when I'm not happy. It's been around for a long time. I personally do not agree with that. But if you want to smile, genuine smile, having a smile on your face adds to the friendliness, to the positivity of the conversation, again, whether it is online or in person. So try to at least occasionally give the person you're talking to a smile, but again, don't be fake. Rolling eyes is something that I actually had a manager once that in the meetings, sometimes she didn't say anything, but if one of us or one of the team members would say some negative or add some negative thought or comment, she would roll her eyes in a way that we all could tell, like, no, this does not sound right. So it doesn't again matter, virtual, in person, people are watching you. People are watching your body language and are listening to what you are saying through your mouth. So be cautious and mindful. Don't cover your mouth. Like I've actually had some client conversations in our meetings that when they're talking to me, they're covering their mouth. Like, first of all, you can't hear me as well as you can when I'm covering my mouth. And second, it can also mean you're not sure about what you're saying. Or maybe you're lying. Maybe you don't really know what to say. So these are again some messages that you are sending. It may be right, may not be right, but the message that you are sending out, like covering your mouth as you speak, can be negative, is usually actually negative. Eye contact, definitely make eye contact with people. Don't gaze at them all the time. I think it's tiring for you, even as someone who's speaking, to gaze at someone for the whole time, but maintain the eye contact in a way that that person knows you're actually in the moment with them. Tone of voice. Sometimes you hear a teacher, a lecturer, a speaker talking and for like 10 minutes, 13 minutes, and after like 5-10 minutes into the conversation, you stop listening. Most of the time, the reason is not the content, but the way that person is speaking. Not adding different pitches of tone or having a very monotonous, like a robot tone is boring. So if you want to have an engaging conversation with people in your communications, try to, if you're happy and when you smile, like try it, even on the phone, when you're talking to someone on the phone and you're happy and you're smiling, your tone and voice changes. That person receives a different kind of energy versus you not smiling or not trying to like be more energetic in your conversation. Any questions? Okay, I want to do this, at least one of these, before I let you go. So, and I'm encouraging everybody. We have more than 2-3 people in this room, so I hope and expect all of you to participate in this. In this scenario, networking is a huge tool in your job search, and we had a networking session like you're going to an event, it's a community event, it's an association event, or it's a hiring event, and you're going to meet many employers or companies in that event. And as soon as you meet someone, a new potential hiring manager or employer, this newcomer says, can you give me a job in your company? How might this manager feel? Try to put yourself in the manager's shoes. What would you feel? How would you feel if The first question I ask you is, can you give me a job in your company? Any ideas? Good. So yeah, building the relationship before asking for things, or at least making a small talk connection before you ask. That can be definitely more effective. Thank you. So let's say this person is a newcomer and comes from a country or culture where direct communication is very common. They don't know. Let's try and help this person rephrase the question. What do you think? How do you think the question can be asked differently? Or how can this person approach the hiring manager differently so that it doesn't sound pushy or transactional or I'm here just to get a job? I'll give you maybe half a minute or a minute to think about it. And I'm asking everybody to participate. So if you have any ideas, either unmute, give everyone maybe a few seconds, Beatrice. I know that you have unmuted, but let everybody think a little bit and then we'll discuss. And yes, this person doesn't know you. You don't know this person. The person doesn't know how much you know about the company or about the job. So it's best to have a quick, short introduction of yourself and then ask if there might be no opportunities for you in this company. And you don't know if your profile is a good match for the jobs that they have in this company right now. So maybe a better way to ask this, I've read about your company, I'm really interested about your company. Can you share some skills that are valued in your company? What are some top skills that you are looking for in this company? Or again, I have followed your company, you are one of my ideal employers based on the research that I have done. What advice would you give someone hoping to build a career in your profile, in your company with my background? And then you share also a little about your background. So it's better to be, and just I want you to tell me, what difference does it make? How do you think the dynamics will shift if you ask this question, can you give me a job, versus your answers and suggestions, which were more aware of the situation, more polite, let's say. Actually, in one word, you were more polite with this person. What do you think will change as a result? Thank you. Yes. And all said very nicely and all good answers. Asking good questions is very important in any conversation and communication that you're having, and being respectful of others' position and also aware of the situation. This is most likely a hiring event, and probably it's not the best place and time to apply for a job. You can introduce yourself, you can make that good first impression, and then if this person is interested in you, you will continue the conversation later on by email, by another meeting, online or in person. And even if that manager does not have a job for you, then leaving that conversation, leaving a positive memory and mark in that person's mind is important, because nobody knows, maybe next year, a few months later, you run into the same manager and this is the person that you had a very good chat with in that hiring event. Today, they don't have a job for you. Maybe next year they will have a job for you. So building these bridges and connections is highly important in Canadian job market. Okay, I have one more scenario, but I also want to have the Q&A time. Let's do this more quickly. A manager tells a newcomer employee, so this person is already working in that company, but the manager asks the employee, you might want to consider double checking the numbers in your report. What would you say? What do you think the manager means? And what is your interpretation before we go to the second part of the discussion? What do you think this manager means by saying that to the employee?
That he believes that there's an error in the report. That's why he's asking to consider and check the numbers again. Yes.
So there is something wrong. Yes, you're right. Something is wrong in this report and needs to be checked or corrected. Thank you, Michelle. How urgent is it? Based on what the manager says, what do you think about the urgency of this request?
It is urgent.
Anybody? It is urgent. How do you know?
For me, I take it as an urgent request.
Okay, that's one interpretation. And
yeah.
yes, it can be interpreted as urgent. But if I'm talking about myself, if my first language is not English, and I come to a country where everybody speaks English, and I know that the word might is usually not very urgent, like you want to do it, you don't want to do it, that's okay. Whenever you have time, you might want to look at this sometime today, tomorrow, next week, because that's what we learn when we are learning English as our second language. That might is not a strong word, a strong modal verb. So I might interpret that, okay, I'll do it tomorrow, not urgent. But how can we make sure about the urgency of this request? You're right. It might be urgent. It most likely is urgent, Michelle. But if I am someone new to this country and I have no idea what they mean, you might want to do it. What do you do? What should you do?
It's always good to ask clarification, asking, is this urgent? When do you need it by?
Yeah.
Maybe asking even more clarification about where in the report key things there are, the numbers that need to be checked.
Absolutely. Yes. So it doesn't hurt. That's another thing that many of us bring from other cultures to this country. We don't feel confident to ask questions. We think asking questions is a reflection of our lack of confidence or qualifications, but it's professional, actually. It's not rude to ask for clarity. It's better to ask versus not asking, and then confusion, misunderstanding, missing deadlines may happen as just because I didn't like to ask. I didn't want to ask. So yes, you can definitely ask more clarifying questions like, can we confirm? Should I check this or recheck this right away? Do I have time to do it by tomorrow? Or as you said, can you maybe point me more specifically to where in the report I need to make those changes, Michelle? So don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid to ask for clarification, confirmation, and back to the importance of communication. A lot of workplace conflicts, workplace problems and issues happen because of poor communication or weak communication. And you as a newcomer to this country, as someone who is either looking for your first job or you want to move from here to somewhere better, I think you need to be aware of the power of communication and making them more relatable to Canadian workplace culture. Thank you, everyone. I think that's the end of my presentation, and there are resources for you. I think the best way to improve your communication, like any other skill, is to communicate, to go out and talk to people, interact with people. Maybe workplace or a job interview is not the best place for you to do the trial and test your communication and improve. One of the options, but there are so many other options out there, which is less risky for you. Like this is a Toastmasters is an organization where you can practice your presentation and speaking skills. Go to community events, volunteer. Another thing that I think helps a lot is to be up to date with whatever is happening in Canada and globally. I'm not asking you to read paper every day, but at least know the headlines, the major headlines happening in the world and in Canada. And try to improve your English or your French. I can share these links and resources with the FCJ staff to share with you. And that's the end of my presentation. I'm here to answer any remaining questions, and I can stay for another 10-15 minutes. I know it's 4, but if you can stay, I'm happy to answer the questions. If there's no other questions, I want to thank you all for being here and participating in the conversations and in the activities. And maybe we'll have more collaboration with FCJ in the future. And you can also reach out to Jumpstart. We are also a refugee support organization. We have other very similar to FCJ, but we will be happy to support in any other capacity, whoever comes to us. So thank you. I think Rajin is still here. Thank you. I'm passing it over to you. There is a survey that I would appreciate if you can complete today or after you leave this workshop. Have a great evening, everyone. Enjoy the rest of your day.